I am here with incredible drummer Pat McDonald, a former member of the CDB, that is the Charlie Daniels Band, for 17 years. If I've got that correct, let me know.
That's right. That's right. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. He's a good friend. I've known him from his Nashville days. I think just guesstimate the first time I played with you was probably, I'm guessing around 97, 96, somewhere around there.
I'm in '97. It had to be because I moved to Nashville in on tax day, April 15th, '97. So yeah, and you and John Billings and the whole the Wooten thing, the Wednesday night thing at Third and Lindsley. That was one of the first hangs that I started to kind of get on a regular basis.
Yeah, that was sort of and if for people that don't know, Victor Wooten, Reggie Wooten, Joe Wooten, the whole Wooten Brothers family, Rudy Wooten, Roy Wooten. Mm-hmm. There would be a weekly Wednesday night gig at Third and Lindsley in Nashville.
Which, oddly enough, was at the corner of Third Street and Lindsley Street.
Yeah.
Weird how it worked out.
It worked out pretty good, you know? So, and here's the thing about that gig. If you were a new musician in town and you could play, that would be a place where you could go and network amongst guys that played. And I will say this, probably a little more elevated than just say the cowboy chord guys. That was a gig where you would play some jazz and jazz fusion, and chops were welcome on that gig. And it became like sort of a networking thing. And, it's a gig that you did a lot. And it would splinter off. It would splinter off and lead to other gigs in town. So how long did you do that, kind of stuff? And then how did you go from that? Because that's not always an easy thing to go from, playing these funk, R&B style, fusion style gigs, and then to breaking into that country music touring thing. How did you facilitate that?
My part of it kind of worked. It went a lot faster than I thought it was going to. I figured I'd deliver pizzas for a couple of years before anything started to happen. And I was working in, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Keith Horn was a big guy there. Keith started handing my number out to people. And Raymond Massey, who was the house drummer, that was kind of his gig every Wednesday night. And he was still playing with Tanya Tucker, and he was getting ready to leave that because he had gotten the job, a desk job at Pearl Drums, which was right down Nolensville Road or I-24. So he was looking for somebody to throw the Tanya gig at, and I walked in the door, and he referred me like in no time.
Wow,
for that. And within 6 months, probably 4 months of being in Nashville, I had a gig. Wow. And I was like, I totally didn't expect. I thought, give me 6 months or a year to kind of figure my way around this thing, and I got just thrown into the machine. It was just fate. It just I happened to hit Third and Lindsley at the time that all that was happening.
Yeah,
Tanya's thing led to more things, which eventually I ended up getting a house gig in town out on I want to say Dickerson Road, way up north. The Starlight,
Broken Spoke or Golden Spoke?
No. It was past that. It was the Starlight. It was up.
Oh, the Starlight.
Yeah, dude. So I played there for about a year. Nah, not quite a year, maybe. And was doing. I had the band, the Blue Healers. Me and Eddie Dunbar and Kevin Adams and Shane Sutton. We had that thing that we did every Monday night, which, as you know, in Nashville was kind of early in the week was the time to go hear everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
because you never knew who you were going to see.
Yeah.
And those gigs all kind of came together like that day.
Yeah.
Like it was real common to get a call Monday morning. Hey, can you play tonight at so-and-so?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you just knew when you got to the gig, you might play with Merle Haggard's guitar player and Alan Jackson's bass player and you, and there'd be another guy. It was just a network. Everybody knew each other. It's a very small network.
Yeah.
But everybody knew each other. And as far as I know, that's probably still how it works.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since I've been involved in it, but yeah. But that led to doing the Starlight gig, led to doing some session work at Johnny Neal's, Johnny Neal's studio. And Johnny, of course, was a phenomenal keyboard player, just passed away, rest his soul. He was he couldn't see, he was blind. So he had Dennis Gully was kind of his engineer.
Yeah.
Like if you ever did any kind of cutting of anything at Johnny's house, like you'd start and you may never see Johnny, and then all of a sudden he'd come down the stairs and he'd have his thumb, he'd have this thing. Well, yeah, it sounds pretty good. I think you guys ought to do this thing this way. And Johnny would end up being the producer on just about everything that was ever done at his house.
Wow.
And he was such a great guy. I ended up doing Taz, Charlie's piano player, who'd been with him since day one. I ended up doing Taz's first record at Johnny's house.
Wow.
It was all said and done. Cool. I knew who Taz was. I knew of his name and whatever, but I'd never really played him, never met him, didn't know him. 2 weeks later, after doing his record and thinking, cool, I'll play on Charlie Daniels' keyboard player's solo record. Yeah. That's about the extent of that was it for me.
Yeah.
And he called me and he said, Jack's leaving, and they had a tour booked and they were getting ready to leave in like 2 weeks. And they needed a guy now.
Wow.
And would you be interested in doing it? And I said, yeah, okay, sure. And they sent me stuff, and, Charlie called me and said, hey, you're the guy, do you want the gig? And I went, yeah. And like in no time, I went from having the house gig at the Starlight and doing local stuff and being busy in town to suddenly I got the Charlie Daniels gig.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. So I came there thinking it was going to be, I wanted to do a Tim McGraw, Keith Urban, Martina McBride type, one of those. They were the big things at the time, early 90s, 2000. And Charlie's thing, Charlie already had his heyday, and I was kind of, okay, it's something. I'll take it.
Yeah.
It'll lead to another thing. And it never, dude, 17 years.
Yeah.
In that band. And guys who had those big gigs would come to me and go, you got the best gig in town.
Yeah.
You play on all the records. He doesn't use session guys. You're in the band.
Yeah.
You get paid. He pays you. He pays for your insurance. He pays for,
wow.
I mean, it was like, suddenly I realized like a lot of the guys that moved to town and think, oh, I want to go play with artist X. I want to be, Luke Bryan's guy or Keith Urban's guy or somebody, big name guy, and do stadiums and sell out. Yeah, very rarely. And until you get to the upper echelon of those things, it's very rare that you get taken care of like we got taken care of.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was and Charlie became a really, really close friend, a good friend to have. Even when I left the band, when I came to him and said, I have to move to Florida to be a dad. I've got a daughter, and I have to take care of my little girl. And I moved down here. He was that guy. He would call me.
Wow.
Just, how you doing, buddy? Everything okay? Can I do anything for you?
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I used to get phone calls from him regular all the time.
Wow.
So it was very much a family thing.
Yeah.
And he was just a good guy.
Yeah. And I'm going to preface all of this, one, to plug, how good a drummer you were then, and I'm sure you are now. Because and we used to always joke a lot, like you were fun to have on a gig because, at the end of the gig, you go, hey, I like that one lick you were trying to play. It's a wise guy, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But man, you had like great time, a great drum sound. You knew how to get great sounds out of your drums. You could take a solo and carry 30 minutes. If you needed to kill 30 minutes of time, just let Pat, take a drum solo and he would keep the audience engaged. That's not an easy thing to do, but you had chops like that reminded me of like a Dave Weckl, Kali Yuta. You could play that real, precise kind of playing. And the thing about Nashville at that time, and it's way different now. It was a small town back then.
Right.
And it was a small network of musicians. And so, now I don't know if you've been there in the last couple of years.
No.
It is absolutely insane now.
Yeah.
The Broadway thing is, dude, there's somebody said the other day, I talked to a guy, he said there's 300 stages there now.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I remember when Lee Kelly talked about this the other day on Facebook, the class of 97, Jim Riley, me, Lee, David Northrup, there was a bunch of us that all moved to town. Rich Redmond, we all came to town that same year.
Yeah.
And we all started throwing each other gigs. And like Jim would play down on Broadway, and I was doing more of the Printer's Alley stuff like Barbara's and Fiddle and Steel. But again, you never knew who you were going to play with, so it really didn't matter. You just played everywhere you could possibly play. And luckily in Nashville, there was oodles of places to play.
Yeah.
But you couldn't, I remember playing, excuse me, I can't think of the name of it. It was in Green Hills.
Bluebird?
No, it's a jazz place. It was
F. Scott's.
F. Scott's. There you go, F. Scott's. I played F. Scott's from like 5 to 7, and then Barbara's from 9 to 1:30, 2 o'clock. And then the Bottle Club, which was the left-hand side of Fiddle and Steel.
Yeah.
Like I was loading my stuff out at 7 in the morning. Attorneys were coming to work and like walking into their thing with briefcases, and I was getting ready to go home.
Yeah.
I worked all day, and I had $115 in my pocket. And I thought I was kicking butt.
Yeah.
Like, all this money.
Well,
and
it was a lot cheaper.
On Broadway that make they make six figures. It's you can if you really want to work and you want to play a lot and you want to play 3 shifts a day, 5-6 days a week, you can make 6 figures.
Yeah.
Working Broadway.
Yeah.
You got calluses on your butt.
Yeah. Yeah.
And no breaks.
Yeah.
12 solid hours of playing.
Yeah.
The only break you get is between walking from one place to another, rolling a trap case.
Yeah.
To set up. So it was never like that for any of us. We would work Broadway for $30.
Yeah.
And whatever tips we could make. If we made $50, we were kicking butt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The difference is now it's so expensive to live in Nashville.
Yeah.
That back when we were living there, I had an apartment that was $350 a month.
Yeah.
Now it was a dump. It was a dump. But you figure $300 gigs and a couple of 50s. And I got my month is covered, and then I got my feet up, eating top ramen. And now, guys, I talked to a guy. He plays 7 nights a week.
Yeah.
And he's averaging, on a slow night, he's averaging about 150.
Yeah.
And then on some nights he could make 400, he could make 500, but he might be paying $2,500 a month in rent.
Yeah. That was one of the things that luckily with Charlie and Hazel, when I started with Charlie's thing, and it all kind of it was a perfect confluence of events and time and the way that the markets were and everything. The early 2000s, real estate prices were reasonably accessible in Nashville, and I ended up, after having a gig with Charlie for a year and a half, maybe, I went and said, "Hey, you know what? I need to buy a home.
Yeah.
Can I get money to buy a home?" And they wanted to give me stupid amounts of money to do this. And I'm like, no. I just want, like, I bought my first house in Nashville for $87,000. 87, like you could spend that on a car now.
Yeah. That's what I paid.
5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's about what I paid for my first house. And
now, but once you get in that, once you break that bubble and get into that to the homeownership thing, you're in.
Yeah.
Because I sold my place up there, made a little bit of money on it. And the guy that owned it, the guy that bought it from me, in 3 years, he doubled his money.
Yeah.
I didn't double mine, and I was there for 13 years.
Yeah.
In that house.
Yeah.
You know. But now that I've come to Florida, you know, geez, I bought mine in 2014. Here it's just 10 years ago.
Wow.
I bought this house. So I'm almost here as long as I was in Nashville in one house, and this place is doubled plus.
Yeah.
So like all the stuff in the neighborhood now is going for. I paid $120,000 for this house.
Yeah.
And it's ridiculous now. I mean, it's like, what? $425,000 for a house 3 doors down. It's the same size as this.
Yeah.
What?
It's crazy.
But it happened. So I'm going to write it. Okay.
Yeah.
The only negative to that is once it happens, you don't, excuse me. There's nowhere to go. It's not like you're going to sell this house and go, yeah, I got $400,000 now.
Yeah.
I'm going to go buy another house because everything's gone up.
Expensive.
So the houses that were $400,000 when you bought it are now $700,000.
Yeah.
So you can't afford that anyway, you know? So, but whatever. It is what it is. I'm happy. I got a great place. As I'm sitting here right now, I might be a mile and a half from the beach, from the Gulf of Mexico. It's just right there.
Yeah.
I can walk there.
Yeah. So. That's amazing, man. For people that watch this channel, and we haven't talked. The last time I saw you was probably about 2013.
Yeah,
and I was on the road, and I had my beard and my long hair.
Who were you playing with?
A Colt Ford.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
And
Paul in the band, Paul
Chapman and Tim Haynes was on drums.
Yep.
And, I got to see your drum solo and dude, I mean, I was like, there has been nobody, then or since that has played a drum solo like that in one of those country shows. The great thing about Charlie Daniels is he would give you that spotlight, every night. And dude, it was literally like I'm standing like on the side of the backstage, and I'm just like, this is friggin' incredible, man.
Yeah, but he was an old school guy, and that's what he was used to, and that's what the crowd that they got to relive that. They got to see that every night. And it was, and that was all him. I never, ever said to him ever, hey, let me do this. Or I have an idea. I want to try something. Never, not once, which you could do easily in his band because you were in the band.
Yeah.
But he came to me and said, hey, I think we're going to take this, we're going to do an instrumental next year. And I think I'm going to let you just take a drum solo, do what you want, and then just cue us and we'll come back in. I'm like, okay. So I didn't have any idea what I was going to do till he said, okay. And he pointed at me and I started playing and I went, well, that kind of worked. And one thing led to another and things, I used to tell people all the time, the framework of the solo was kind of the same because it kind of needed to be the same.
Yeah.
For show, for lighting, for production things, for all the cues and whatever they needed to know. Oh, this is the part where he does the thing with the toms where the lights flash, and because if you don't, it's boring. And I'm a drummer. Okay, if you're going to do a drum solo, you better do something cool, say it, and then get the hell out.
Yeah.
After 3-4 minutes, I'm bored.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I got it. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Next, I'm off to the bathroom. I don't. So I want to do something that's going to be either the crowd's engaged in it or the band's engaged or something.
Yeah.
And so I had to kind of keep that framework always the same. Sort of.
Yeah.
But what happened within those sections? No clue. Every night was something different. I had no idea what I was going to do.
Yeah.
And how I was going to do it. And I never talked about it. I never thought about it. Wow. It was like just at that moment, right now, what am I thinking? And this is what I do. So you just had to do it.
Yeah. And it's the perfect combination of what I like to talk. Here's how people talk about getting bored, playing the same songs each night and, playing the same show and stuff like that. But what you set up with your solo was, okay, here's some things. I'm going to do a tom section here. I'm going to do a little Latin groove here. I'm going to tang the hump on this back part. I remember you were tanging the hump at one point, which is upbeats on the cymbal. But you allowed creative space within that format so that each night you could make each performance unique, keep it fresh for you, keep it fresh for the audience.
And that's stuff people used to tape that and put it on YouTube. I'd never posted a video on YouTube. I don't know how to do it. I've never done it.
We're doing it right now, bro.
Technologically, I'm just like totally unable to do it.
We're doing it right now, man.
But people would do it, and then I would get emails from people saying, "Hey, what was that thing you did in the solo or during this tune or whatever? What was this you were playing?" I don't know. Where is this? Oh, the thing that's on YouTube. Oh, okay. So send me a link because I don't know. And then they would send me the link, and I'd have to go back and look and go, oh, I think he's talking about this and, whatever. But I didn't put that video up there. Yeah. I've never put a video on. I don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
But people would see the show, and then they would tape that and put. So there's still tons of stuff up there.
Yeah.
Me.
Yeah.
No, I didn't do it.
Yeah. I might find one of those links and I'll put it in the description of this video once this video posts.
Yeah.
Because people are going to want to hear that drum solo now. So I'm going to post that on there because like I said, man, it was incredible. And I'm somebody I've seen lots of great drummers and lots of, there's lots of guys that, like Raymond Massey who could play like a really great solo and stuff like that. But nobody was really doing that in the country music field. And here's the humor of it is I remember the day we were there and I was standing side stage next to the guitar tech, and the guitar tech comes over to me and he goes, "What's the name of your drummer?" And I said, "Tim."
I have a picture of this with Tim holding the
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm gonna try to dig up that picture.
I got it. I'll see if I can find it, man.
Yeah.
Please don't sit waiting for me to send it to you because
no, I think I have it.
Yeah.
So he said, "What's the name of your drummer?" And I said, "Tim Haynes." So he wrote it. He misspelled it, but he wrote like Tim Haynes. And so right before your solo, Charlie would have the tech come over and goes, "I want you to play like this person." And so he put Tim Haynes, our drummer's name, on the thing as a guideline for your solo. And I always thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, he would do that. That was something that people would see him hand me a video or a towel on video on YouTube, and I would like open the towel and look, and there'd be a name, and he would like during the day, and then we never ever talked about it. I never knew until that moment. He would hand me a towel, and it would have somebody's name written on it, and it was like part of the thing was, I'm going to throw you a towel so you can wipe your head because you're working so hard.
Yeah.
Which was to the crowd, that was the thing. But on the video, on the towel, there was a name written, and he wanted me to play like that guy. So it would be Buddy Rich, it would be Gene Krupa, it would be Cole Palmer, it would be Neil Peart, it would be and he would just Google somebody's name and find a guy's name and then remember it and then write it on a towel that night. I have a stack of towels with all these drummers' names written in the laundry room in there.
Wow.
He wrote them, and I never knew what he was going to write. And sometimes he would hand me stuff like Baby Dodds, and I'd go, oh, all right. So I'd have to play some Dixielandy thing or something. He would like dig up the most obscure names you could think of. But then there were other times where he was like Morton Johnson. I'm like, who the hell is Morton Johnson? He's like, oh yeah, he's the guy in Sheboygan. He was a big polka guy. And I'm like, I don't have any freaking idea who Morton Johnson is. And it was just a little humor thing.
Yeah.
We would laugh, and people would go, oh, they must think it's really funny. They have no clue.
Yeah.
But it was all of that stuff. All of that was all him.
Yeah.
He said, do this, play this. There was one time I did something. You cue us when we come back in. And I played some outside Vinny thing, like really, really outside, like you really had to be listening, baby.
Yeah.
And he kind of looked at me and he said, now don't lose us, son. Like, don't go too far out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that's all he had to say. For 20 years, that stuck in my head.
Yeah.
He played reasonably safe
Yeah.
when they can hear where the downbeat is.
Time to come back in.
They know where to come back in.
Yeah.
Other than that, he never said a word to me about it. He never said, I want you to do this or I want you to do that. There was one time later on I had a pad with some samples, and I'd have keyboard players like Dane Bryant or somebody would like write little riffs for me to I'd hit the pad and it would just loop.
You could play
I could play along with it, whatever. And it had rhythm figures and stuff and whatever. At one point, I remember we were playing in like Arkansas or somewhere on a river. And it was the Poison was there the next night or something. So we did some stupid thing and I hit the wrong pad. I hit the big finale pad before. So it was like, I sort of blew my wad here.
Yeah.
Uh-oh, now what do I do? Yeah. And I was like, okay, well, I'll just do some stupid like bloom, bloom and have the crowd clap back to me. I'll do something. So there's, 2,500, 3,000, 4,000 people out there. And I'm doing this thing. And when it was over, he went, that thing you did during the solo, that was really cool. I want you to do some more of that. And I went, oh, God, now he's got me doing schmaltzy, like, boom, boom,
spot.
Clap, clap, boom, boom, clap, clap.
Yeah,
he's got me doing that crap now. But he never stuck with it. I did it for a few nights and kind of molded it into something else. And so it sort of disappeared. And I was glad to see it go because I didn't want to get into like being one of those guys.
Yeah.
That was the only time that he ever went, yeah, that thing, I like that, what you just did.
Yeah.
At that moment, it worked. Let's let it go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but I mean, that's seriously, that may be the only time he ever said anything to me based on any of that. Like, you play whatever you want. But going back to what you were saying before, I was really, really fortunate to be able to be a band member and to play. This was his quote. I'm gonna give you this, and you will never hear this from any other artist ever in the history of all things musical coming out of Nashville, ever. Well, I first got the gig, and I said, okay, so Jack Gavin had been the drummer. Jack's a great drummer. Jack left and went to play with Tracy Lawrence, I think. Whatever. I said, okay, on the tape that you gave me, Jack does this thing where he goes, duh, 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 duh. You know, what is that what you guys are used to hearing? Is that what you want to hear? You know, is that how you know? Because you have to sort of figure out what your position is in that. Well, I did it a couple of times, and then he stopped rehearsal and he said, listen, I hired you to play drums because you know how to do it and I don't, and I need somebody to do it. And other than that, you do whatever the hell you want to do, and you tell us where you're at, how you want to come back in.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so you're not interested in any of the stuff that Jack did. You just want me to, no, you play it how you want to play it and we'll figure it out. And I went, okay. Cause I was totally in this, like, these guys this is what they're used to hearing. That when they hear boom, 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 they know that's when they come back in.
Yeah.
And I didn't know any of these guys.
Yeah, yeah.
The first rehearsals were that way. And I was like, yeah, I talked to him about it. And he said, nope. He said, I hired you to play drums because you know how to do it and I don't.
Yeah.
And as far as I'm concerned, you do whatever you want to do and we'll follow you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You will never, ever hear that from anybody. Some management guys, some artists, somebody is going to come to you and go, okay, on the live recording, they have this. I want you to do that.
Yeah. 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 That is why, and like you said, you know, you thought that, oh, I'm going to get a Tim McGraw gig or I'm going to get this, but you will not find a cooler boss. And here's the other thing, low turnover.
Oh, yeah.
You could have gotten one of those other gigs, but those other gigs can be volatile.
Yeah.
Because they're not road dogs and not honorable, maybe, potentially, not anybody specific, but not of the same cloth that Charlie Daniels is. And Charlie Daniels, you get a gig like that, and as long as you do a good job and play your best and you're a good person, man, you could ride that train as long as you wanted to.
Absolutely. And that was one of the things. Now there are very few acts that are out there that still that have that mindset. Millsap, of course, he's retired now and he's not really doing anything. The Oak Ridge Boys, Tanya to some degree, although Tanya that depends on what kind of
mood,
fun she was having at whatever particular time. But there's the old school acts.
Yeah.
That you get that gig and you do the gig and you'll be on that gig for as long as that person wants to play.
Yeah.
Or there's the machine, the Nashville Music Row machine acts that I think we're going to try dancers and we're not going to have a steel player this year. And we're going to, they just, because they're constantly fiddling with the recipe to try to find how it's going to work.
Yep.
And it's not about the music and the songs. We didn't have a bunch of production. We didn't haul a bunch of lights. We didn't have a video wall. We didn't have fog. We didn't have any of that.
Yeah.
When you came to see the band, you got 60 minutes or 90 minutes or whatever of the band.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the way then there's fewer and fewer of those, I think, as time goes on.
Yeah.
There's a lot of talented guys out there, but I don't see them 30 years from now being a Charlie, being a Millsap, being a Oak Ridge Boys, being somebody that there's 75, 80-year-old men out in front of you still doing it. And they've been doing it since they were 20.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just don't see that anymore.
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But
man, it's changed a lot. And I had seen it, from what I was doing out there, seeing it go from being a very organic thing with just a couple pads with a couple of triggers and seeing the machine come into the performance. And all of a sudden, every song is tick, tick, Deek,
Yep.
bling. And then starting to be, okay, we want you to play exactly what you played on the record every night.
Yeah.
And my thing was like, okay, obviously I can do that because I played it, but
Yeah.
I'm not giving the audience any new information. So why would they want to come to multiple shows if
Right.
I'm going to go through the motions every night? And for me, that was kind of my stepping off point because
Yep.
look, man, what I grew up on, I had to go see Eddie Van Halen live to get all that extra information. And I knew each night
Yep.
he was going to add something to his solo that would be like, wow, what is that? And I would have to try to remember it because I hadn't have a cell phone. I didn't have a thing. I would just try to remember what was that thing he was doing there. And that would make it where bands like the Grateful Dead or the Black Crowes or whoever it was, you would go see because there would be new information each night. And because the machine is such a huge thing now, there's less and less organic music.
Right. And that's why a lot of the acts, I think that if they come from that kind of a background, like a Charlie or a Millsap or an Oak Ridge Boys type, and I'm saying just strictly Nashville based acts that I've been associated with or know, whatever. If they come from that background and they've grown up playing those kind of songs and doing them a different way, and suddenly like Bruce Hornsby, you know what? He can take a song that was a huge hit, but tonight we're going to do it totally. We're going to twist it inside out, and the crowd's still going to love it, but it's going to be totally new for us, and we're all going to laugh, and we're all going to have a great time and go, oh, that was really cool how we did that. That's something that you don't see.
Yeah.
Unless you go see somebody in a club, because the big arena size, you just can't wing it that way.
Yeah.
There's too many people involved in the production of it.
Yeah.
Post
Malone.
Yeah.
No.
Yes. No, but my time post Nashville, although I still know a lot of guys who still live there or have been around there. About 10 years ago, maybe, Taylor Swift did her big tour, the Revelation, I think.
Yeah.
Whatever. She played in Tampa, and I knew some of the guys in the band.
Yeah.
And I knew the drummer from Tom's thing, from doing the Van Halen tribute and that. Okay. Well, I knew Matt and it sent him an email, and he hooked me up with tickets, and we went and saw this. I'd never seen anything this big. The Stones would bow at her feet and go, you got to be kidding me. She had 55 semis and a video, like it in a stadium, in a football where the Bucks play.
Yeah.
It was sticking out the roof of the stadium. It was massive.
Yeah.
And everybody had come to see this little girl walking around on the stage. And she was phenomenal. Do not get me. It was one of the most ungodly things I've ever seen. But it was rehearsed, and it was tight, and everybody knew what they had to do every second from beginning to end. Yeah. There was no room for improv anywhere.
Yeah.
None.
Yeah.
And it was what it was.
Yeah.
And it was still amazing. And it made Kiss look like a bar band. But it was just like, man, it was paint by numbers is what you remember we used to call it.
Yeah.
It was just paint by numbers. It was just, okay, here's the section where you play this. Here's where you say this. Here's where you do this. It was so by rote.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was amazing, and everybody loved it, and everybody was they went crazy for it, and it was just an ungodly thing. But the days of people like Charlie, like Ronnie, like the Oaks, that kind of act.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
That's done.
Yeah.
We don't care about you. We're now in the interest of making money.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
I get it. That's what it is. When
Yeah.
people figure out that the money can be made at it, that's what they do. But
Yeah.
generally speaking, yeah, I'm old. That in my twilight years, as we like to say, I
You're
guess.
back 9, dude.
Yeah, I'm on the back nine. Right. So moving to Florida, it's warm and sunny, and we don't have to deal with snow in the winter. And this is really kind of it's the perfect storm for me, because a lot of the people that were like you and I as teenagers, when we couldn't wait for Friday nights if we're going to try to sneak into a club and watch a band and hear a band play the newest MTV hits and whatever, we that's what we live for. And I have a daughter that age now, and she has no concept of that. None.
Yeah.
I don't know where it's going to go, but if you want to like ride the coattails of the movement of people who used to go hear live music, this is the place to do it, because they've all come here.
Yeah.
They've frozen enough, and they're like, man, I'm coming south.
Yeah.
And down, and it's warm and it's nice, and you can go out and hear a band.
Yeah.
So when I play a gig, it's not 20 somethings anymore. It's 60 somethings.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's cool. It's still work.
Yeah.
And I'm still getting paid.
Yeah. Yeah. What is it like? And I've heard, I'm up here closer to Tampa.
Yeah.
And I've had people tell me it's mostly a lot of singles and duos, which is, dudes doing the Margaritaville type thing.
Yeah.
And I had a guy reach out to me a couple of weeks back to fill in on a country gig, and I just couldn't bring myself to do it.
Yeah.
But I think it paid like $100 and plus tips or something like that. What's the price range for doing these gigs?
Yeah, I work with a band that stays fairly busy locally, and the cheapest gig that I've ever done that I've done in the last couple of years, lowest paying gig is $1.50. Is $150.
That's good.
Usually it's $2, and then when you add tips to it, depending on how much they haunt the tip jar, some bands are better at it than others. It can be $250, $300 a night.
Yeah.
But I'm retired. Like people have watched this enough now to see my eyes. I had a stroke about 2 years ago, so I was about 6 months inactive.
Wow.
And luckily, it was what's called a thalamic stroke. It was my hypothalamus went in the center of my brainstem, so it didn't get up into. I didn't have either side being. I don't play like I used to play, but I can still keep time.
Yeah.
And nobody has fired me yet. Nobody said, "Hey, remember all that drummy shit you used to do? Yeah, you don't do that anymore. We're not going to hire you." Nobody has said that.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's an indication, like, I made a career out of being that one of those guys. But now I don't really have to.
Yeah.
But overall, we still stay relatively busy 4 or 5 nights a week. Yeah, 4 nights a week anyway.
Yeah.
And we've got a couple of regular things that we do. Today is Saturday, right?
Yep.
Yes. So, and I'm off tonight, which is rare. But I've got a regular gig that we do every Sunday from 4 to 7. And dude, this place is like, it's a place in Sarasota, and it's a barbecue restaurant. It's outdoors, and by 6 o'clock, by 5 o'clock, it is packed.
Wow.
It's packed full of old people who want to come spend their Sunday afternoon, have a drink, have a little something to eat, and dance.
Yeah.
And that's what they do. And I mean, it is he makes more money, I think, on Sundays than he does on Fridays and Saturdays.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sunday fun day, bro.
There it is. That's what we call it. That's exactly
Sunday fun day, dude.
And I've been lucky enough to be part of that for, God, it's been 4 or 5 years now.
That's awesome.
It's a great hang. But that's the one where I look out at the crowd and go, God, man, they ought to just have an ambulance parked out here because somebody's going to die. This just old people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm an old guy now.
Yeah.
I'm not 20 anymore. I have to remember that.
Yeah. That's an important lesson. And, my YouTube channel is kind of focusing on the back nine. And as we get older and the things that we realize are important and your playing changes, your focus on chops, you start to realize, I don't need to do all that. I just need to play in the pocket and play my parts. And then I can keep playing for longer times. Mm-hmm. I've experienced the playing for older crowds because I played with an oldies act, Gary Lewis and the Playboys, and we used to play the Villages, and we'd play all those type gigs. And here's the other thing, man. Playing the wedding scene in Nashville, that's an offshoot of all the Wooten Brother type gigs. Mm-hmm. Those did get to the point at the end where they were paying $500 a man.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. But I started, and look, you're always playing for a relatively young crowd on those gigs. But I started noticing that all the other wedding bands, the guys would all be 20 some years old. Yeah. Back when we would be like, man, I'm not playing weddings. I'm 20 years old. I'm going to go do all this other stuff. But now it's like guys are aspiring to create these real, big show bands. It's like people are aspiring to do that.
You know what? I know that there can be a market for it, and there have been people doing it. But my entire life, I've heard about guys playing local gigs, and I want to get a band where we play 2 gigs a month, but we make 10 grand a man. And that would be nice too. And maybe there's occasionally you'll run into one of those, but you're not going to find 25 of them a year. You're just not.
Yeah.
Sorry, but you're not. And that's the reality of it. You're going to have to do a bunch of shitty, crappy gigs.
Yeah. Yeah.
But still, you can still make a living, a reasonable living. You don't expect to get rich.
Yeah.
Which, if your perspective is anything like mine, you sort of get to the point where you go, why am I chasing all this? Why do I just have a bunch of fancy stuff that I'm just going to have to leave here and dole out to people?
Yeah.
A piece of paper when I die. As long as I got a roof and I got food and I can feed the kids and everybody's happy. All right. So I go out and I bang on stuff and I make noise for 3 hours a night.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can't beat that. And there's a lot of people that have to go and work at a Best Buy.
Yeah.
And they have to unload trucks and and then deal with jerks like some guy comes in and goes, my computer's not working.
Yeah.
Deal with that guy.
Yeah.
All day long.
Yeah.
8 hours for half the money I make.
Yeah.
It's stupid not to do this.
Exactly. I mean, it's what you love to do. And it's amazing story of, coming back from a stroke and altering how you played, and being able to keep doing what you love to do and not have to do something else. And, the amazing experience of playing with Charlie Daniels. And I'll tell one more story, how cool that guy was, is I can remember one of the gigs we played with you guys. And Charlie, somehow they came and got me off the bus. Hey, Charlie wants us to come up and jam. And I'm probably about 5 or 6 beers in, at that point, because we were the opening act, But I'm like, real quick. Okay, sober up a little bit, and I get up there, and dude, the guy, the guitar tech, Charlie's right hand man, literally, which one you want to play? He hands me Charlie Daniels Les Paul, his like custom shop Les Paul. It's plugged into Charlie Daniels Mesa Boogie Mark I. He's probably had since the 70s.
Yeah.
You know, and then we go out there and we played something kind of like a blues, you know, or something, up tempo, like, you know, swing, you know, kind of thing. And it's like nobody does that, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't have that. And he was the guy. I never really talked to him about that, but for you, this many years later, for that to have made that much of an impact that you know all of the details of it.
Yeah.
That's what he would have loved to have heard that story from you.
Yeah.
You know, and you get to tell him and you would say, oh, and that all this stuff happened and it was just amazing and I'll never forget it.
Yeah.
And I knew him well enough to know that when you left the bus, you might have thought to yourself that the cynic came back into it. He's not going to remember that. That's just, at least I got to tell him, okay, great. No, he'd remember it.
Yeah.
Like 3 days later on the golf course, he and I would be playing golf and he'd go, you buddy, the guitar player that played with Colt, Brad, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, that was really cool. He really enjoyed that. He did. And I'll make sure I mention to him next time I talk to him that we talked about it. I am not kidding you, dude.
Yeah.
Dead serious. That was the kind of guy he was.
I had to slap myself because I'm like, I've got a Charlie Daniels friggin' guitar on right now. I mean, it was really nice, like 59 style Les Paul. You know, I'm just literally like, you know, and then he would come over. He'd come over and go, "Hey, man, nice playing." You know, he would say something to you, and that was the second time that I'd got to play with him because I had to back him one time on some benefit gig with Eddie Gore and a bunch of like, you know, Steve Cropper and guys like that. Right. And it was the same thing, man. I played my solo and he comes over and goes, "Hey, man, nice solo." You know, nobody does that. Nobody. Yeah. You know, it's like, man.
But he knew it. He knew he wasn't a karaoke singer and he wasn't a karaoke musician, which a lot of them, God bless them, they're really, really super talented. But just tell them where to stand, and here's the song, and the band will do what it does. You just move your mouth and let the sound come out, and then when you're done, we'll take you off.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. And they just do that. He wasn't that guy. He was a real player. He knew the songs. He knew how to write songs. He knew all of the stuff that you studied, he studied.
Yeah.
You may have studied it more than he did. And if you did, he'd be the first one to come to you and go, "Show me that thing you were doing. What are you doing there?"
Yeah.
You know? I remember being, and this is a weird one for me because I just didn't really grow up. There's not many guys that played the Opry that listened to Vinny and Weckl. You know what I mean? Until we started to come to town.
Yeah.
Went, oh, you can do that. Well, there were at some point I got called, just me, to go in the studio with Charlie, Earl Scruggs.
Wow.
Randy Scruggs and me. Randy was playing bass, I was playing drums, Charlie was playing guitar, and Earl was playing banjo. And we did some sort of a bluegrass thing. And Charlie was and he played with Earl way back in the day when he first moved to town. But he was still like super, super. This is a Nashville term that if anybody says this, Gurmy.
Yeah.
Just very respectful of Earl. Yeah. It was odd because Charlie was one of those legendary people that people would come in and they would be
Gurming him. Yeah.
And he was that way toward Earl. And we sat in the studio and he talked to Earl because banjo players knew the old school banjo was like strum stuff, like Bill Bailey. Won't you come over? And you did this. And then Earl came up with that picks on every finger rolling. That was Earl's thing. Nobody had done this. Like Eddie Van Halen, everybody says he invented the tapping thing, even though he didn't. He
Yeah.
still was the first guy that made it famous.
Mainstream. Yeah.
Yeah, mainstream. So Charlie grilled Earl. We were having lunch, and he asked Earl about it, and he was like, "So when you sat down you said you were on the porch or something, and you just started doing this. How did you feel when you that whole thing when that came about?" And Earl was really, really soft spoken, really quiet, and he said, "Well, it scared me." And Charlie said, "Well, why?" And Earl said, "Because I knew I'd opened a door that had never been opened before, and I just kept working on it and figuring it out, and it became what, like anybody that plays a banjo now, that's what you do."
Yeah.
It had never been done.
Yeah.
So Earl kind of was the first guy to sort of go, "Well, hey, you can do this," and I could see it in Charlie's eye, just like he just had that whole. He was in like, oh my God, I am with the vision on the mountaintop.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's Earl Scruggs,
Yeah.
and Charlie was like that
Yeah.
to him.
Yeah.
And I was in the room going, "The hell am I doing here?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just a dumb kid from Georgia.
Yeah.
What am I doing here?"
Yeah.
So he was a great man and a good friend, and I still dream about him. I still talk to him. I still talk about him all the time.
Yeah.
My wife knows it. My wife met him. He got to know my mother.
Wow.
He got to know my daughter.
Wow.
He was like grandpa to my little girl.
Wow.
He called my mother on, like, he used to do a thing every Christmas when if your mother was still alive, he would call your mother on Christmas Eve and talk to her and say, "Hey, wish her Merry Christmas," and talk to her for 4 or 5 minutes, just some little connection. The first Christmas he called my mom, she called me right immediately afterwards, and she goes, "Charlie just called me on the phone."
Wow.
I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "No, you don't understand. Charlie just called me on the phone." I'm like, "Yeah, he does that to everybody's mother who's still alive on Christmas Eve." She's like, "I didn't know what to say. She was just totally like, I just talked to Charlie. What? She was totally enamored."
Wow.
But then years later, yeah, Charlie called me today. He left a message. I didn't get it. I was busy feeding the horses. I couldn't do it. He wanted to talk horses. So I called him later the afternoon. Yeah, but we talked.
Yeah.
We talked today. He said, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, he and my mom had a thing because mom was a horse person and Charlie was a horse person. So they had horses to talk about.
Wow.
So if you ever had any, they would talk outside. I wouldn't even know they were talking. He would call me about my daughter. "How's Lily? Bring her over to the house. I want to show her something."
Yeah.
Get in the truck and put Lily in the back of the car, and we'd go to the house.
Yeah.
And he would it was that. It was it was very much a family. If you were in his family, you were in the family, and you could stay there as long as you wanted.
Wow.
And even when you left, he still would call you.
Yeah.
He'd go, "Hey, everything good? You okay? You need anything?"
Wow.
You
That's a character. That's a man of so much character, and I don't think anybody can really understand that. Look, man, you'd be lucky on some of these big gigs if they even know your last name. They might have you might have a nickname. Where's Skippy, or where's Gimp? Where's Gimp? Or where's New Guy? You know, and here's a guy, and here's the thing, man. Charlie Daniels Band back in the day, they had Billy Cox on bass at one time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was a family, and anybody was invited. If you were good enough to play in that band, he would welcome anybody. And man, what did
always that way. And it never changed. It never changed.
That's incredible.
Yeah, the last time that I was in Nashville was his funeral.
Wow.
I drove back to, I took time off from work because I had a day job down here when I could still do stuff before I had a stroke. And I told the guys, like, look, I got to take a couple of days off and go to Nashville. I don't have a choice. I've got to do this.
Yeah.
And he totally understood it. He's like, yeah, go take as much time as you need. Go. And I took a couple of days off, and me and my wife and a real good friend of mine, we all got in the car and we drove back to Nashville, and we stayed in a hotel, and that's what we did.
Yeah.
And there was no question that's what we were going to do.
Yeah.
I still talk to Hazel a couple times a year. She'll just call, just check on me.
Wow.
How you doing? Anything good? Or I'll call her. Hey, you've been on my mind. What? Just want to check and see how things are going. You doing okay? You know.
Yeah.
Whatever. They're like, I have family members that I don't talk to as often as I talk to somebody in this family.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's very strange. It's very, very strange.
And I can only imagine that funeral was filled with country music royalty.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Constantly, all the time.
Yeah.
When we would do the Opry, I can't even tell you how many times I've played the Opry. And there would be somebody, I'd meet somebody in the hallway, and they go, oh my God, is Charlie here? Yeah, he's right in the dressing room. And they go in and they would like walk out and be just like the same. Oh my God,
yeah.
And I'm like, he's just a guy. Come here.
Yeah, yeah.
And go back in and it'd be just the funniest thing in the world to me.
Yeah.
People, but I knew him.
Yeah.
And he was my friend, and
yeah.
And his family was all my family. He was a good man. He was a really, really good man.
And I can imagine an incredible sense of humor.
Oh God. Sometimes we had a thing. I know there was a lot of guys that because he was the boss and they came from the old days, a lot of the crew guys were, they walked on eggshells. They wanted to be careful, then not say the wrong thing or whatever. Whereas from day one, I walked in, you know how I was anyway.
Yeah.
I'd tap him on the shoulder and go, hey, you get lost tonight? Just watch me. I'll pull you through it. And then I'd jump up on the show. And we constantly be ribbing each other all the time. All the time. During the shows, he would turn around and look at me and say something. And most of the time, it was SEC football, go Dogs. I was a Georgia fan. He was a Tennessee fan. Charlie Hayward, the bass player, was an Alabama fan, and we all hated Florida. We all hated the Gators. That was just the rule.
Yeah.
He would turn around and look at us and what's the score? And we'd be during the show. What are you guys talking about back there? You asking me the score. I had my phone laying here on the ground with the score up. Georgia just intercepted 17-0. It was constant. It was all the time.
That's amazing.
And it never stopped. And I think he liked, I know he liked that. And I know he liked me because I wasn't intimidated by the whole thing and whatever.
Celebrity. Yeah.
Yeah. It was like, people ask me all the time of all the people that you've met, who is the one that sticks out to me, the one that I remember more than anything was we did it may have been the first record that we did. So it was way back. It was probably early 2000s. But when QVC used to have people on, and we used to, you do a record and then you try to sell it.
Yeah.
We went on QVC and we're trying to sell this record. And I see Charlie talking to this old guy in a suit. And the suit is like, I'm looking at the guy. I say the suit. He's cordial and kind, but I thought this must be Mr. QVC. That's what it is. It's the boss, So I get close and he goes, "Hey, come here for a minute." And he calls me and Chris, the guitar player. He says, "Come here, you guys. I want you to meet somebody." And so I'm thinking, okay, we're going to meet Mr. QVC. We meet this guy, It's Jim Lovell,
Wow.
the astronaut. The
Wow.
Tom played him in Apollo 13. Houston, we have a problem.
Wow.
That guy.
Wow.
Like, I've been a long way from home. That guy's been farther from home than I've ever been in trip. He went around that thing.
Wow.
And he was as nice as he could be. But that's the only time I ever saw Charlie, besides Earl, where he was just, he was enamored. Like, holy crap.
Wow.
This is Jim Lovell. And we met him and talked, because he was selling a book after, and then he went on and he was pushing some book,
Yeah.
And he was just as nice as he could be. But every time I see Apollo 13 now, I go, I met that guy.
Wow.
No, Tom Hanks met that guy. And Tom Hanks thinking, holy, that's Jim Lovell. Yeah.
Wow.
We met him.
That's amazing, man. This has been an incredible interview, and I know we've only just skimmed the surface. So I'm going to do like I do with all my great guests, because all the interviews have been great. I've had Rudy Sarzo on here.
Nice.
I've had James Michael from 6 a.m.
Yeah.
I've had Tom McDermott from Rick James's band on here. So as I tell all of them, we're going to have to do this again. We'll have to do a round 2 down the line and get deeper into this stuff, because, man, this is just an incredible story, and people need to hear this stuff. Once we leave this plane, these interviews and stuff will still be out there, and people will want to hear these stories. And man, I just want to thank you so much. Let me know. Text me sometime when you're playing somewhere, especially if it's a little further up north. And I'm gonna try to come hear you play sometime soon. And man, this has been great to reconnect with you. And since we're both in the same state, I'm sure I'm gonna see you down the line.
Absolutely, dude. It's been an honor. I appreciate you calling, and I appreciate appreciate you doing this. And I'm with you 1,000%, man. There may not be as many people that find it as important as you and I do, but we grew up in a generation where this is stuff that we eat. We used to eat this stuff for breakfast.
Yeah.
And being able to be a part of it, even on a small level, and to be able to share those stories with people who are still around and still care. Yeah. That's the next step. That's what you do.
Yeah. Well, we're on the rise. The channel's got 12,000 subscribers right now. So we're not Rick Beato yet, but I'm going to keep grinding, bro. I'm going to keep grinding. Man, thank you so much, brother.
Absolutely, Brad. Take care.
All right. I'll see you again soon.
Okay, man.
Take care.